and even your long-term health. If you've ever wondered why some strategies work amazingly for others, but not for you, this is where things start to make sense. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could completely change the way you approach your body and your daily habits. For millions of people around the world, coffee is not just a beverage. It is a ritual, a comfort, a productivity tool, and sometimes even a personality trait. The morning doesn't begin until the first sip hits the system. The smell alone can trigger alertness. But have you ever wondered what would happen if you suddenly stopped drinking coffee altogether? Not reduced it, not switched to decaf, completely stopped. Coffee's primary active compound, caffeine, is a powerful stimulant that directly interacts with your brain chemistry, nervous system, cardiovascular system, and even your sleep cycles. When consumed daily, your body adapts to it. It builds tolerance. It recalibrates its internal chemistry around that daily stimulation. So when you remove coffee, you are not just removing a drink. You are temporarily disrupting a system your body has adjusted to. In this video, we're breaking down what truly happens inside your body when you stop drinking coffee from the first 24 hours, through the uncomfortable withdrawal phase, and into the longer-term adjustments that follow. Some effects might surprise you. Some might make you rethink your relationship with caffeine entirely. To understand what happens when you quit coffee, you first need to understand how caffeine works while you're consuming it. Caffeine primarily affects the brain by blocking adenosine receptors. Adenosine is a neurotransmitter that gradually builds up in your brain throughout the day. Its job is simple. It makes you feel tired, T. The more adenosine accumulates, the sleepier you feel. Caffeine looks structurally similar enough to adenosine that it can attach to the same receptors, but instead of making you sleepy, it blocks the signal. As a result, you feel alert, focused, and energized. But that's only part of the story. Caffeine also stimulates the release of dopamine and increases activity in the central nervous system. It can elevate cortisol levels, especially in the morning, enhancing the fight or flight response. Your heart rate may increase slightly, blood pressure can rise. Blood vessels in the brain constrict. Your metabolism temporarily speeds up. When this stimulation happens occasionally, your body manages it efficiently. However, when caffeine becomes a daily habit, your brain adapts. It creates more adenosine receptors to compensate. This is why over time, one cup of coffee doesn't feel as powerful as it once did. Tolerance builds because your brain is adjusting to constant stimulation. And that adaptation is exactly why stopping coffee creates noticeable effects. Within 12 to 24 hours after your last cup of coffee, subtle changes begin to unfold. The caffeine in your bloodstream decreases significantly. Those extra adenosine receptors that your brain created are now fully available, and adenosine can finally bind to them. This leads to a rapid increase in fatigue. Many people describe this stage as feeling unusually tired, even if they slept well the night before. That exhaustion is not necessarily because your body lacks energy, but because your brain is recalibrating without artificial stimulation. Headaches often begin during this window. While caffeine constricts blood vessels in the brain, stopping caffeine allows those vessels to dilate again. This sudden widening of blood vessels increases blood flow and can trigger pain receptors, leading to throbbing headaches or even migraines in sensitive individuals. Concentration may also decline. Since dopamine activity is reduced without caffeine's influence, mental sharpness can temporarily feel blunted. Tasks that once seemed easy may feel slightly more difficult. Reaction time may slow, motivation may dip. Emotionally, irritability is common. Because caffeine interacts with mood-regulating neurotransmitters, its absence can make some people feel more sensitive or short-tempered during the first day. This stage can feel discouraging, but it is a predictable neurological adjustment, not a sign that your body needs coffee to function. For most people, days 2 and 3 are the most intense part of the process. This is when withdrawal symptoms typically peak. Headaches may become stronger. Fatigue can feel overwhelming. Some people experience mild nausea, muscle heaviness, or a sense of mental fog. The brain, accustomed to daily stimulation, is temporarily operating at a lower baseline of arousal. Mood changes may also intensify. You might feel unusually anxious or, paradoxically, unusually low. Caffeine subtly stimulates stress hormones, so when it's removed, cortisol patterns may fluctuate as your body seeks equilibrium. The emotional shifts are not permanent. They are part of the adaptation process. Sleep during these days can be unpredictable. Some people sleep longer than usual because adenosine is no longer being blocked. Others may struggle with restlessness as their nervous system recalibrates. The body is essentially learning to regulate alertness naturally again. Sleep during these days can be unpredictable. Some people sleep longer than usual because adenosine is no longer being blocked. Others may struggle with restlessness as their nervous system recalibrates. The body is essentially learning to regulate alertness naturally again. It's important to note that caffeine withdrawal is recognized in clinical research as a legitimate physiological condition. The symptoms are temporary but real. They are not imaginary or purely psychological. They reflect changes in neurochemistry and vascular tone. The good news is that this peak phase usually does not last long. By the fourth day, the most intense symptoms often begin to ease. Headaches become less frequent. Energy levels, while still lower than usual, start to stabilize. The brain slowly reduces the extra adenosine receptors it had created during habitual caffeine use. This period marks the beginning of neurological recalibration. Your body starts learning how to produce energy, alertness, and focus without relying on an external stimulant. Sleep patterns may begin to improve noticeably during this phase. Without caffeine lingering in your system, especially if you previously consumed it in the afternoon, your body can move more naturally through its sleep cycles. Deep sleep stages may become more restorative. You may fall asleep faster at night and wake up feeling slightly more refreshed. Emotionally, many people report feeling calmer toward the end of the first week. The constant subtle stimulation of the nervous system is gone. Heart rate variability may improve. Stress reactivity can decrease slightly. However, mental sharpness may not yet feel fully restored. It takes time for dopamine pathways and alertness circuits to normalize. The first week is about stabilization, not peak performance. By the second week without coffee, something interesting begins to happen. Many people start noticing that their baseline energy levels feel more consistent. Instead of sharp spikes of alertness followed by crash, energy becomes more even throughout the day. This doesn't necessarily mean you feel more energetic than when drinking coffee, at least not yet, but the roller coaster pattern often smooths out. Your body is no longer experiencing caffeine-induced highs followed by adenosine rebounds. Cortisol rhythms may also normalize. Instead of being artificially elevated by morning caffeine consumption, cortisol follows its natural circadian pattern, peaking shortly after waking and gradually declining throughout the day. For some individuals, anxiety levels decrease during this stage. Caffeine can amplify the body's stress response, even subtly. Removing it can create a more stable internal environment, especially in people sensitive to stimulants. Digestive changes may also occur. Coffee stimulates bowel movements and increases stomach acid production. Without it, digestion may feel different for a while, but many people find that stomach discomfort or acid sensitivity improves over time. Week 2 is often when people begin to realize they can function well without coffee. By weeks 3 and 4, your brain chemistry has largely recalibrated. Adenosine receptor levels stabilize, dopamine signaling adjusts to a caffeine-free baseline. Energy production feels more intrinsic rather than stimulated. So what really happens when you stop drinking coffee? In the short term, you experience withdrawal, headaches, fatigue, irritability, mental fog. Your brain and blood vessels are recalibrating. In the medium term, your nervous system stabilizes. Sleep improves, energy evens out, anxiety may decrease for some individuals. In the long term, your body functions on a natural baseline without daily stimulation. Focus becomes steadier rather than spiked. Emotional regulation may feel smoother. Stress responses may feel less amplified, but the final answer is deeply personal. For some, coffee enhances quality of life without negative consequences. For others, stepping away from caffeine reveals a calmer, more balanced internal state. The key is awareness. Understanding how caffeine interacts with your biology allows you to make an informed choice rather than an automatic one. If you've never experienced life without coffee for at least a few weeks, you may not fully know how your body responds without it. And sometimes, the only way to understand your baseline is to remove the stimulant and observe what changes. Your body is adaptable. It recalibrates. It learns. Whether you return to coffee or not, the experience of stepping away can teach you something powerful about your own physiology. And that knowledge alone can change how you see your morning cup forever.